What's up, fantasy fans? It's time for the last episode of the Fantasy Outlaws. That's right, we are wrapping things up as your fantasy football season wraps up, but we will be back next season with more. Same crew, I hope, will be with me. Ed Graney, Review Journal sports columnist, Adam Hill, on top of all sports for Review Journal, and I am Heidi Fang. And we have for you all the best pickups, the best waiver wire action that you need to get here. We're also going to cover the best starters as well as the busts for this week, week 14 of the NFL season. I think we should start it off with probably the waiver wire, just because if you're in the playoffs right now, if you're in one of those leagues that has 6 teams in the playoffs and you're on a bye, maybe you're not, but you might want to start looking at who you need to get in there to win these playoffs, to start getting to the top and take home a trophy. So for me, I'm going to go with Zay Jones, Buffalo Bills wide receiver. He had a pair of touchdowns last week. I think he and Josh Allen are finally connecting, and I think that he's going to be a guy that you're going to want to plug in. In our league right now, only 13% owned, so definitely somebody to look for. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing well, not as well as Mr. Hill. Adam is in 12 of 13 playoffs. The fact he's in 13 leagues is embarrassing as in itself, but he made 12 playoffs, so I have to give him credit for that. And the fact you picked anyone on the Bills, he's not happy with. My waiver pickup actually this week is going to be Rashad Penny of Seattle. He's actually finally starting to play like a first-round pick. I think in the coming years he's going to be really good. Averaged 9 yards a carry last week, scored another touchdown. Chris Carson only had 13 touches. Penny went for 67 on, I believe, 9 carries or 11 carries. So, I'm going to say Rashad Penny. I think they like him. They're liking him more. I don't know if they trust him completely, but they're trusting him more to run the ball. And and Adam has said this about Rashad Penny in the past, if he could ever get to where he catches balls, he'd be a real spectacular player. But I think maybe in a few years that'll come. But for now, if he's out there, I'd pick him up. They seem to be giving him the ball around the end zone.
Adam, how do you feel about that pickup?
It's fine. It's a good choice for sure. I think Ed's used Rashad Penny like 7 times this year for the pickup, so I think he has to have him at this point. Listen, there's two very obvious pickups this week that everybody's going with. You're going with Jeff Wilson from the 49ers. That's mine. I'm saying that's who you pick. That's your number one priority. A lot of people went Jalen Samuels as their number one priority, and that's good. But it's probably not good for the reason you think. Everybody thinks, hey, he's filling in for James Conner. That's awesome. The reason it's a really good pickup is because he has tight end eligibility. So you can pick him up and put him at tight end, and he's a running back. There are no tight ends on the waiver wire ever. That's the key. Get Jalen Samuels to put him as tight end. Even if you already have running backs full and you're like, I don't really need him. You might have James Conner and get him, but you can play him at tight end. That's the way to go. But Jeff Wilson for sure as well.
All right, let's move to the bust this year. For this week. This week's bust for the fantasy football week 14. There's a guy that is going to go up against the Saints D, and that is Peyton Barber. And for me, he's going to be my bust. I think the Saints have done a good job against the run this season and holding guys out of the end zone. So I think that Peyton Barber is going to be somebody that you're going to want to keep out of your lineup for this week. Adam, who you got?
Well, I wanted to pick Spencer Ware, but this guy is going to do that one, so I'm going to let him allow that to happen. So I'm going to give you another one, and this is chasing a little bit. Last week I made a prediction elsewhere that Adrian Peterson was done. He had nothing left, and he had 1 big carry for 90 yards and a touchdown. But if you look at the rest of the carries, like 1 yard a carry the rest of the way. So I'm not completely wrong about that. He just had the 1 big run. I'm going to stick with it. Adrian Peterson doesn't have anything left, regardless of that 1 carry. Go against him, fade him this week.
Yeah, and that was like vintage AP too. Pete, he went and made that 1 cut and then went out, but it was a little slower than I'm used to seeing. But hence the age. Ed, who have you got?
I think I have Spencer Ware of the Kansas City Chiefs. I watched him. We watched him in Oakland last week. More importantly, he now plays the Baltimore Ravens, who this year only 6-backs PPR leagues have gotten double-digit points. So they're really good against the run. And the thing with the Chiefs now, without Kareem Hunt, they went for $172 last week, but you don't really know where it's all coming from. Mahomes is running, Ware is running, Damian Williams is running. So combine it with you're not sure who's going to get the carries. They've signed guys this week. You're not sure who's going to get the carries. And plus, again, Mahomes is so dangerous with his feet. Baltimore's so good against the run. I would fade Spencer Ware. I mean, I wouldn't play him against that defense, given the fact you're not really sure where the rushing yards are going to come with for the Chiefs now without Mr. Abuser.
Ouch. All right, on the flip side of that, Ed, who have you got as your starter?
Derrick Henry. Oh, no, wait, I can't do that. He played Thursday night and had 77 points by himself, or it seemed like that. I'm actually going to go the old man, Phillip Rivers. 3,700 yards, 13 straight games with a touchdown, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But more importantly, given the fact he's on fire right now, he's playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who can't get out of their own way. They can't score. I don't think they'll be able to stop him. They have the big game with the Chiefs next week. I don't think it's a look ahead for Rivers. That he hasn't had, playoff success. I think more than anything, he'd love to win the division. And even if it's not a real home game there in Carson, would be a pathetic crowd for the other team. I think that guy knows his window's closing. He wants to take the best shot he can. So I don't think you're going to get a slip up or a look ahead from the Chargers. Not with that guy running the team. He just hasn't had the playoff success that he's wanted. I think he's going to have a huge games against Cincinnati. I think this guy. I'll tell you what. If the Chiefs lose this week, that division in the AFC West is not over. The Chargers could, I'm not saying backdoor their way, and they could win the division.
Yeah, they definitely could. They're just I think one game out.
Yeah.
So, all right. For me, I got a quarterback, but
Derrick
it's not.
Henry? Oh, no,
it's not anyone as seasoned as who Ed took. I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield, just because the Panthers have a very flimsy pass defense, as well as Baker Mayfield's kind of heated up lately. So I think that he's gonna be somebody to keep out, to put into your lineup. Quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Adam?
I try not to go super obvious on these, but I'm going to do that this week. Aaron Rodgers has struggled. He has not been prototypical Aaron Rodgers. People that drafted him early in drafts who were told not to, probably not very happy with that decision right now. But listen, this is the week. If you're playing daily fantasy, if you're trying to figure out, hey, Aaron Rodgers hasn't really been carrying me, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a massive week. He wants to prove a point that he was right in getting rid of McCarthy. He's going to throw at least 5 touchdown passes. Woo. 5 touchdown passes this week, which also means you can go with any of his receivers. They're all going to have productive days. This is going to be a huge day for the Green Bay offense.
So that'll do it here for us at Fantasy Outlaws. Make sure to get your lineup set, and we will be back next season with more fantasy football updates for you. For Adam Hill, for Ed Graney, I'm Heidi Fang. Thanks for watching.